Hello, my name is Mike Fapp, and this is my YouTube channel, Living in the Illusion. Today we're having a little Japanese green tea that I got from the tea lady, Mary the tea lady, at the Eastern Market. If you get a chance, stop over and see Mary. She has many different kinds of tea. So, last time we were together, we talked about, are you software or hardware? And I'll put a reference to that up here so that if you haven't had a chance to take a look at it, you can do that. Because we're going to use some of the information in today's video. And I put up here the essence of the video. And this comes from a course in miracles. And the course says very specifically and very short words only. Minds, that should be an S. I forgot it. Communicate. Minds communicate. Well, because a lot of people think bodies communicate. And we know all about body language, and we know about verbal and nonverbal language. But when you get down to the essence of communication, only minds communicate. So we're going to be talking about that. Let's see, anything else I want to mention about last week? Probably not. Now we're going to step back a little bit because everything is an interpretation in the mind. Now, I'll say that again because a lot of people may not understand it. And so as we go along, hopefully you'll gain some insight. Everything is an interpretation in the mind. Now, we're talking about communication. So I'm going to draw, as best I can, an outline of a body. So it's going to look a little strange, but hopefully you'll get the idea. Now, this is only a profile of the front part of a body. Now, here's the feet down here, and here's a little tummy and the legs. Oh, and I should probably put some arms on it and some hands. Ha! So you kind of get the idea? Okay, we're going to leave that for a moment. When you communicate, when you are sending information to somebody else, you're sending it from your world. And they are receiving that information into their world. So there is data that is going between the two. And you are always communicating. Even when you don't want to, you still are. So the other person is receiving that information through their senses. Not unusual, do you think? They receive the information from their senses, and their senses convert that outside information that you are sending through their senses to electromagnetic and chemical signals. You think you're sending them words, and you think you're sending them information about color, about the atmosphere, about the weather. You're not. You're sending information that their senses are converting into electrical magnetic energy, and in some cases, chemical energy, and it goes into their body. It goes into them. And you know what they have to do with that raw data? They have to interpret it. They have to interpret the raw data into meaning for them inside of them. Now this happens very fast. Millions to billions of bits of data per second. And we talked about speed of information before and how fast the subconscious mind operates. And in this case, taking that information, that data, and comparing it to your life experiences, which are memories, and coming up with an interpretation of the information that you are sending based on their belief system. So while you think in your world you are communicating very completely, very thoroughly, and you can't understand why they are not understanding your communication, they're living in a different world. And they are interpreting it as if it is a foreign language, and they're using their past experience for that interpretation. Couples have the same problem. They think they're communicating, and a lot of times in therapy, when I get couples, the first thing they say is, we can't communicate. We're not communicating. And I say, oh, speaking a foreign language? And they kind of get upset a little bit. But they really are. They're speaking two languages, and they expect things to come together. So a third person sometimes helps in bringing that together. But that's strange. Couples work is always strange. Couples work is the only work that I used to sweat under my arms to try to keep balance between the two people. So now we have this figure over here, and everything that you see in this profile, your facial muscles, the frown on your forehead, your body language, whether you're slumping, whether you're up straight, whether your arms are closed in or opened up, all of that. How do you think that happens? Now, you're looking at it from the outside, and you're seeing the effect of your programming. Now, first of all, between between the body and the mind is CPU, central processor. So information comes into the mind, which is where your programming is. The program sends a signal to the CPU. The CPU processes the information and sends signals to the output, which is the body. And so every muscle, your smile or your frown, every nuance in your face, muscles contract and muscles soften based upon signals from the mind, from the body, into the body from the CPU, from your brain. And so you have every muscle in your body has a connection to, even your little eyebrow has a connection to your CPU. And it signals how to flex those muscles. Now, you think you're doing it automatically. You're not. You're doing it from a signal. And so this whole thing, your whole body is tied right down to the toes and your feet to the CPU. The CPU is getting its information from the program, its subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind holds all your experiences, your life experiences, in the form of memories. And so when the information that you are sending comes through the senses that are in the body, goes directly to the mind, to the subconscious mind. And there it is determined through the programming of the past, the signal that is going to be sent to the central processor. And then it does what the processor does. A lot of people think the processor, the brain, does the programming. And here's the thing. The brain is very predictable based upon the signals that it's given. Now, it's a little difficult to talk about the signal from the mind because there's not a good interpretation of what the mind is. So I'm going to develop a little theory around medication. So if you, this is the whole thing. This is all of you. See? So are you software, hardware, or output? Where does it all start? The programming. You're the program. Now, in the program, for instance, if the CPU is given a signal, a chemical signal, say the system, the whole system, has depression. And you say, oh, I'm going to take antidepressant. Now, so that medication becomes a chemical signal to the CPU on how to respond. So you take the pill, and I'm trying to point out, I want to point out how predictable the CPU is. You give it a chemical signal for depression, and you feel better. Oh, because the signal does what it does. It's a chemical thing, goes into the brain, makes a lot of changes in there, all kinds of magic stuff, and you feel better. Now tomorrow, you take the antidepressant. You feel paranoid. Oh, you feel suicidal. Oh, terrible. Oh, well, the next day you take it and you feel lethargic. You feel no motivation. Next day you take another pill, 3 days later, and you have a different reaction. You're excited, you're anxious, you can't sit still. Doesn't work that way. The CPU, your brain, doesn't work that way. If you give it a certain signal, it's going to respond in a certain way. That's the way it's made. It doesn't do programming itself. It reacts to the programming in specific ways based upon the mind. So now the programming determines the communication. Signal to the CPU generates an output. It's the mind. Everything is interpreted in the mind first and then signaled to CPU that produces an output which we call behavior. So if your behavior is not what you would like, you have to look to the CPU. The behavior of the body is because of the mind. Why? The body is servant to what the mind wants. Very specific statement. But we think the body has some autonomy that can make certain decisions. Look closely at the model. The body is connected. It's got all these wires. It's like artificial intelligence. It's got all of these programs running in, and it runs based on those programs. The body is never independent. All of its systems, all of them are interrelated. There's not one system in the body that is autonomous. And so communication is with the mind. If you have a phone, for instance, and you go to the store and you're supposed to pick up something and you can't remember what it is, you take your phone out and you call your significant other or somebody that knows what you're going to pick up at the store, and you talk on the phone and you say, hey, what was I supposed to pick up? And they will tell you. Who is communicating? The hardware? The phone? Now, it's a device, but it's not communicating. Minds communicate. Bodies react. CPUs process. Recognize you as the program control the whole thing. So, there's more to talk about communication, because there are other techniques to test how well your communication system is. But we just think, well, we just communicate and it just works out, or it doesn't. And so many relationships end because we don't know how to communicate. So give that some thought and be good to yourself. And we look forward to seeing you next time we get together here in the illusion. Bye now.